Hello everyone, this is David with Inspire Precision, and in today's video we're going to be taking the awesome Zelos and we're going to be converting it to a bottle. Now one of the major gripes about this is there's just not a lot of shots. So I have seen about 22 shots from full until it drops off the regulator. You get probably about another 20 shots that are good, but they're not on the regulator. And for me, I want a lot more shots, and you might as well. So today we're going to do a bottle upgrade. I've got my Zelos completely degassed. That might be something that you want to do before you start. So we'll take this bipod off and we'll set that guy down. So to go over a few of the tools that you're going to need. You will need a 3mm hex driver, a 2.5mm hex driver. I've got an adjustable wrench here. You will need some sort of silicone oil or silicone grease. We'll probably use the silicone oil. In terms of supplies, you're going to need the bottle. So I have a 500cc or a half a liter bottle here. And guys, just make sure the pressures that you're going to be working on, that your bottle is rated for it. This guy is pin stamped 30 MPa, which is 300 bar, and which is about we're going to round up to 4,500 PSI. It's not exactly 4,500, but we're going to be able to round up. So make sure your bottle is rated to the kind of pressures that you want to use. You don't have to go all the way up, but just make sure your equipment is the right stuff. So we want a bottle. I've got the Snow Peak, the M60B bottle adapter. I got this from Airgun Archery Fun up in Canada, and that's the only place I know to get this. There are probably other places to get Snow Peak parts. I also purchased the Picatinny rail trigger guard. There's not going to be any rail to put a bipod when you convert this over to a bottle unless you get a barrel band, bottle band assembly with a pick rail attachment. For now, I'm going to use this trigger guard with the pick rail attachment. We're going to see how that works for us. Lastly, in terms of items we need to do this conversion, I've got an Umarex manometer, a gauge from a Nodos that I had converted over to a bottle, that I have this in my supply bin. So the Snow Peak one is measured in bar, and the Umarex one is measured in PSI. Doesn't really matter which one you use. I like it readings in PSI, so we're going to switch that out. That's going to be the first thing that we do. So you will remove that rubber housing, the protector from the manometer, and I have found that these are pretty loose. They don't need to be super tight. I am going to snug them up a little bit more, but take off the Snow Peak gauge, and we're going to take the Umarex one. Before I go any further, I am going to put a little bit more silicone oil on this O-ring, and we're going to thread that PSI manometer right in, and it is decently tight, but I am just going to snug it up just a little bit more. It doesn't need to be torqued on there, guys. Probably didn't even need to be that tight, but I like my gauges a little bit tighter than hand tight. And we're going to slip the little cover from the Snow Peak gauge right back on. It's clocked kind of weird, but I think we'll manage. So this is your metric bottle threads. So just make sure you're working with a metric bottle. So I am going to put a little bit of silicone oil on that ring. It's got a little bit on it already. And we're going to tighten this into our bottle. this just needs to be snugged up. There's no wrench flats on this bottle adapter, so I'm just going to take it with my thumb on the fill fitting, and I'm going to put it on there about as tight as I can get it. Again, it doesn't need to be torqued on. I just like to snug them up. All right. It's worthwhile to mention that this bottle adapter from Snow Peak has the pin valve, so this will also be hot swappable when you're done. So we're going to set that aside. Next, we're just going to remove the cylinder off of our Zelos. And again, there's no air in this, so we should be able to take this right off. And because these are hot swappable, guys, I suppose you could fill up both of these and you can go back and forth. So we're just going to set the cylinder aside, and we're going to work on this trigger guard assembly first. You're going to take your 2.5 millimeter hex wrench and remove the 4 screws on the bottom. Okay, after you take those 4 screws out, your trigger guard, your stock trigger guard, should pop right off, and you'll set that to the side. You'll pick up your M60B trigger guard with the pick rail on it, and let's slide that right on there, and we'll tighten those screws up. All right, so as you can see, we've got our little pick rail right here. It's going to be very close to your grip, but we're going to try that out. Maybe we'll put a barrel band, bottle band on this so we have a pick rail a lot further forward, so we can hold this better. We get a little bit more accuracy at the bench. What I have found is this bottle is not going to clock correctly when I install it. The gauge is going to be on the opposite side, so the gauge will be on this side instead of the gauge being on this side. And that's just something that you'll have to deal with. Not all of these are going to clock correctly. You can turn this fitting 180 degrees to get one more position out of it. So I'm going to do that right now. You'll take your 3 millimeter hex wrench and you'll loosen up the 4 bolts. Alright, after those bolts are loose, you're just going to pick up that fitting right off of the breech there. I guess that would be called the plenum cavity. And you're going to turn it 180 degrees. I have an arrow on mine, so I know what's top. But now I'm going to have the arrow pointing down towards the bottom. And there's plenty of grease on this O-ring, so I'm not going to do any more. But you'll set that right back down where it's clocked and get that located. Take your wrench again and tighten up all those screws. If you end up getting one of these, I just don't know where it's going to clock for you. You may find that it's completely off, but like I said, you can turn this around to get one other position out of it. Then you'll take your bottle, and I'm going to put a little bit of silicone oil on this O-ring. And I'm just going to put a little stripe of silicone oil right on the threads. So these are steel threads, and this is an anodized aluminum housing. Presumably you're not going to be taking this on and off a whole lot, but you're going to want a little lubrication between those two dissimilar metals anyway. So screw your bottle and your bottle adapter right on. Alright, so you can see how mine is clocking right now. I'm going to give that a nice tightening. That's not going anywhere. So you can see how mine is clocking. If I had this turned 180 degrees, the gauge would be sticking right out on the bottom. I guess that's okay, but I wanted it up on the top so I can see both gauge readings from the same side. Quickly, you can look and make sure that you can still access the fill port, which I can. I have plenty of space to put on my hose, and we won't even touch that pick rail with anything even after I've got my bipod on there. So that's something good to check. Yeah, and then we'll just put the bipod back on. Guys, that's just about how easy it is to convert your Zelos over to a bottle. Now, it is worthwhile to note that the Zelos is almost identical to the Snowpeak M60. And now, in this configuration, it is almost identical to the Snowpeak M60B. And you may say, why would you buy a Zelos and upgrade it to a bottle when you could just buy a Snowpeak with a bottle on it to begin with? Well, there are a few reasons why. Most of them stem from the fact that I'm in the US. So getting Snowpeak is a little bit more difficult. I'd have to order it from Canada. I'd have to order it from the UK. And generally speaking, I don't want to have to deal with that. It's over a certain amount of money, import duty, value-added tax, things of that nature. And I like working on my stuff in-house, and I like wrenching on things. So that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If you really like this video, give us a thumbs up. Give us a comment. I am open to answering any questions that you have for this bottle conversion. This was super simple, but if you do have any questions, put them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. If you feel compelled to subscribe because you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I just want to remind you to break out of your comfort zone, learn a new skill, and have a great day.